You know, I like to follow politicians of all stripes on Twitter because I like to know what the other side is saying. In fact, if I counted them up, I think I probably follow people I disagree with or frankly am scared of more than I follow people on my own side because I sort of already know what my team thinks. But I can't follow Canada's Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault. Maybe it's because I have been sharp in my commentary about him. I always mention that he's a convicted criminal, which is odd to be elevated to cabinet. But whatever it is, Stephen Guilbeault has blocked me on Twitter, which is too bad because I'd like to know what he's planning to do to me. Because you see, Stephen Guilbeault has announced, and the Liberals have confirmed to the Globe and Mail and other places, that they intend to bring in brutal censorship laws post-haste to tackle not just things like terrorism online or child pornography online, things everyone could agree with, but they throw into the laundry list hurtful opinions and offensive opinions. Well, no one could disagree with fighting terrorism or child pornography, but they throw in these stowaways of offensive words. Well, that makes me think maybe they're coming for me and a handful of other conservative critics of Guilbeault and the Liberal Party, including our next guest. You know him. He's one of Canada's few independent journalists. His name is Spencer Fernando. He's the boss of SpencerFernando.com, and he joins us now via Skype from Winnipeg. Great to see you again, Spencer. I have to say I'm a little bit nervous about this because the Liberals have almost total control over the legacy media. There's just a handful of independents left, like you and me and True North and a few others. They don't want any dissidents at all. That's my worry. Do you think that there's going to have political censorship here in addition to actual censorship of criminal acts like terrorism or child porn?
Yeah, it seems like they're moving that direction. And, you know, one thing I repeatedly say is when the government already has authority to do something and then they create a new bureaucracy or a new program to fight against the thing they can already deal with, that tells you that what they're claiming the problem is not actually what they're really talking about, right? So the government says, oh, they need to fight hate online, right? Well, there's already hate speech laws that the government has the authority to use, right? So they don't need new authority there. And then when you start throwing in things like, oh, an offensive opinion, well, offensive to who? Hurtful opinion. Well, hurtful to who, right? Everyone's got a different idea of that. It's very subjective. So it looks like they're trying to, I think, capitalize on what they feel is perhaps a political environment where people are pushing for more censorship and more control, and they feel they can appeal to that. Of course, that's the kind of thing that, you know, people, they may want that for a while. You know, there's a certain mood in the country or North America or the world. But, you know, that kind of shifts and people, you know, the opinions change, but you're left with the government control. And a lot of people regret what they previously pushed for. So I think it is very concerning, and I don't trust the government to use that kind of authority wisely.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there are hate speech and hate propaganda provisions in our criminal code. But the thing is, that's a problem for a guy like Stephen Guilbeault because he's got to get a prosecutor to take the case to a judge beyond a reasonable doubt. There are some legal defenses. Now, there are some convictions under those sections of the criminal code, but there's a whole legal process. It can be appealed theoretically all the way to the Supreme Court. One of the things that I note about the way the Liberal Party is talking about their proposals, they haven't published their proposals yet, is that they want to copy some approaches done in European jurisdictions where they don't value free speech. One of the things that I've heard Guilbeault talk about, and it was in his mandate letter from Justin Trudeau, I think going back to 2019, was they want social media companies to delete comments that are complained about within 24 hours or face enormous fines. Now, the thing is, you can't have a trial in 24 hours. In fact, if it's on a weekend, people might not even be at work answering. So if you have a complaint on a Saturday, does Facebook have to have some sort of trial Saturday night, Sunday morning, and have the, you know, there is no way to properly have a hearing on the facts. And if there's massive fines, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all these social media companies, they'll just delete everything because if there's $1 million fine, they're not going to risk it for free speech. I'm deeply worried not just about the substance of the censorship, but this lack of process. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think, whenever you see a government impose something that's obviously impossible to meet, regulation that's impossible to meet, then I think they want exactly what you're talking about, right? Is they know the companies will just say, well, then we'll just shut down comments entirely, right? Or we'll just shut down entirely. And that's really what they want, right? It's funny. I don't know if you're watching some of the financial news today. You're seeing a lot of the hedge funds in big trouble because I think it's GameStop. A bunch of just regular retail investors are buying up GameStop, kind of playing the same game the hedge funds have been playing, right? And all of a sudden, it's so unfair. We need regulation. We need to be bailed out. All the big hedge funds that were so powerful and so influential, they're all panicking and begging for government help. And that kind of reminds me of much of the media as they've responded to social media. It's like, oh, wait a minute. No. We're the only ones who are allowed to reach people and share our opinions and share the facts, right? Oh, how dare these regular people share their opinions freely as well. And so I think you're seeing a bit of the same thing. It's both the media and the government who have lost their monopoly, the control and flow of information, and they're panicking and they're trying to get it back. And, regulation and government control is always the way they try to do that.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.